contamination by nature. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in mode of goodness. If his heart is in mode of passion, his faith is also in mode of passion. And if his heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is also thus contaminated. Thus, we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in the modes of pure goodness, but because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. Thus, according to different types of faith, there are different kinds of worship.
Okay. Okay, let's read this also.
Being asked, the Lord begins to speak. The faith by which one worships the devas and other beings while giving up the rules of the scriptures because of the laziness or difficulties should be understood to arise from the virtuous and sinful impressions from the previous life. Swabhavaja. The faith is of the three types, arising from the state of sattva, rajas, and tamas. For the beginningless, unrelenting birth of the embodied soul in the beginningless contact with the three gunas or prakritis. They do not have the spiritual intelligence arising from the scriptures taught by the devotees, which will allow them to change those impressions swabhava. Therefore, the three type of faith which arises from those impressions appear. Therefore, the three types of faith which arises from those impressions appear. Faith born from the scriptures is different. It brings about performance of the actions only according to the scriptural directions, not because of the impressions of the three gunas.
Okay.
17.3 Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary. Though faith itself is a function of Sattva Guna, it becomes three types of faith for the embodied soul possessing an internal organ whose very nature is to hold the impressions.
Okay, so you can read this right down. He defines what is that internal organ or antakaran.
Yeah. The internal organ or antakaran refers to the subtle internal organ consisting of the mind, intelligence, false ego, and memory, chitta.
No, continue.
The internal organ, sattvam, is composed of the three gunas, and corresponding to that, the faith of all living entities appears. The faith of the internal organ predominated by sattva gun is sattvic. The internal organ predominated by rajagun is rajasic. The internal organ predominated by tamagun is tamasic. The ordinary person, ayam purushaha, a worshipper who has an object of worship endowed with one of three types of faith, shraddhamaya, will be faithful to one of the three respective types of object, devas, yakshas, or pretas, yat shraddhaha. That worshipper, sa, becomes endowed with the qualities of the deity worshipped, sa eva.
Okay. So from both Srila Prabhupada's purports and these commentaries, we can understand that the jiva is originally pure, uncontaminated. As soon as the jiva comes into the material world, he becomes covered by three modes. Example, analogy? Yes, rainwater originally pure, as soon as touches the ground, becomes contaminated. So as soon as when did this take place? When did this contamination take place? Yes, as it says over here, beginningless contact with three gunas. It is anadi, correct? 13.20. Krishna has described both jiva and prakriti are anadi. So there is no fixed time at which it has taken place. There is no date in history, as Prabhupada says. There's no date in history when the jiva came in contact with prakriti. So therefore, there is no point in discussion on that topic of how, when, why, no point in discussion. Because when it happened, anadi, okay? So one should never get into that useless discussion. So But somehow the jiva has come into this material nature and has become contaminated with the three modes. Now, the three modes act on the antakaran or the subtle body basically, right? The three modes originally act on the subtle body. The subtle body becomes influenced by the three modes. And therefore, that influence of the three modes on the subtle body creates various impressions. That is the swabhava. The swabhava of the jiva is basically due to the influence of three modes in this material world. The original swabhava is Shuddha Sattva, totally pure. But when the jiva comes into this material world, due to the influence of three modes, he gets different types of swabhava, different types of nature. तो इसलिए लोग बोलते हैं ना मेरा ये स्वभाव है. हाँ सही बात है, वो स्वभाव है, उसको बदलना बहुत मुश्किल है. This is basically due to what? The influence of three modes. And due to the influence of three modes, you'll find unlimited varieties of swabhava. Everyone's swabhava is different. Unlimited varieties you find. And that is all due to influence of three modes. And so the antakaran or the subtle body becomes influenced by three modes. And because of that influence of the subtle body by three modes, the person has different types of faith, different types of shraddha. That is all based on what? That is based upon the influence of three modes. That is based upon the previous impressions coming due to the influence of three modes. So on the basis of that, we find that there are different types of faith, different types of worship. Therefore, you find Srila Prabhupada at the end of his purport to text 3, he says, thus we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. So therefore, one need not be surprised when one finds so many varieties. There's nothing surprising about it. तो हमें लगता है अरे क्या पागल लोग हैं पत्थर को पूजा कर रहे हैं, अरे क्या करे वो तो तमोगुण में है. That's the problem, right? So they are in tamoguns. We can't expect something different. So therefore, all these different types of worship that we find is basically due to different types of faith. And where is that faith arising from? The modes, the influence of the modes. And that is the reason why, in order to give everyone a chance to make some progress on the spiritual path, therefore we find Vyasadeva, what he has done? Right, so we find that he has, so he has given all these Puranas for those who are in Sattvagun, for those who are in Rajagun, for those in Tamogun. He has given all these different varieties. Why he has given varieties? Because there are people in those three modes, and on the basis of that, they are going to have that particular type of faith. And they will be inclined to that particular type of worship because of the influence of three modes. So therefore, in order to give all of them some facility to make some progress, ठीक है, okay, you do your worship according to your particular mode, but at least do it according to scripture. So at least if they follow scripture, then they will make some progress by following scripture, by following authority. That is why Vyasadeva has given all this variety of scriptures. And so that is the reason why we find all this. And therefore, we find Srila Prabhupada in his preaching in the Western countries and everywhere, Srila Prabhupada was so expert in not trying to disturb that faith. And there were many instances when Srila Prabhupada was questioned, have you come to the West to convert Christians into Hindus? What did Srila Prabhupada say? No, we have not come here to convert anyone. So Srila Prabhupada would often say, if somebody wants to be a Christian, we have no problem. You be a perfect Christian. That is our only request. You be a proper Christian and follow all the injunctions of Jesus Christ. And you attain love of God. That is the ultimate goal. So this was very appealing to many people actually. And many people appreciated that Srila Prabhupada was not being fanatical. So Srila Prabhupada would very openly say that. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada has written even his purports. You can see the second canto, 4th chapter, 18th verse. Kirata Hunandra Pulanda Pulkasha. In that purport, Srila Prabhupada said that Jesus Christ and Muhammad, they are great prophets. They are like our gurus. Prabhupada would often say that. So Srila Prabhupada was very open, and he was not imposing. Because why? Because it is natural for different people to have different types of faiths. But what is important is, okay, one may have that particular type of faith which is according to the modes. But what is important is, as Srila Prabhupada is writing over here in the purport to text 2. In the purport to text 2, Prabhupada is writing, the association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually. Since the living entity is in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and scriptures. So therefore, this sort of faith, which is due to influence of the modes, has to be changed into a faith which is based on Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So the faith has to be based on scripture. So it has to become Shastriya Shraddha, faith based on the scripture. So just like now, okay, let's give it. So just like we find sometimes in so-called Hindu tradition, we may find people who naturally are vegetarians. Or we also find people who naturally are devotees of Krishna, correct? Which is coming down in families. We find that in India. And so that is very good. It has been coming down in the family. There's a lot of sattva. And so therefore they have habits like vegetarian food, and they worship Krishna. Is there a problem with that, or there's no problem?
One saying there is no problem, but it can be upgraded.
What's that? Okay, what is the upgradation?
I mean, their faith, because now they have got that faith because of that family samskaras, what they have got from father, mother.
So what's the problem?
Problem is because things in that kind of faith, if that family itself is coming in a proper parampara, that's not a problem. But if it's just a laukik shraddha, it becomes a problem because that family itself is not coming in a proper parampara.
Okay, that's one. That could be one challenge. What could be some other challenges of this?
Yes, Prabhuji. So maybe they were not following any scriptures. What is mentioned according to that they are worshipping or not, offering bhoga to the Lord or not.
Okay, assume they're offering bhoga because Krishna is there in the house. They're offering bhoga. They take prasad also, and they're worshipping Krishna. So it's fine, right?
Someone is required, just like we have our counselors, gurus. So they may have that or not. That we have to see. And that
no, they're already worshipping Krishna. Why they require somebody?
No, guru is required now.
Huh?
Guru is always required.
Guru is required to bring one to Krishna. They're already worshipping Krishna.
No.
अरे कुछ तो बोलो भाई, इतना जल्दी दे दिया आपने.
So you will ask, then I will answer.
अरे you're preacher ना? अरे इतना जल्दी defeat accept. I'm asking 2 counter questions. You're giving up.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, if they only follow what is taught to them, then question may be asked. If somebody asks or questions his practices, then he will not able to defend.
Okay, that could be one challenge.
Yeah.
That could be one challenge, but he may still say that, okay, नहीं नहीं हमारा घर में चल रहा है, हम कर रहे हैं, क्या समस्या क्या है?
But if others are doing their practices, then
Hmm.
he cannot differentiate which one is better. Because to know which one is better, they say then sabka theek hai. So they equally treat, but that is not samatva. So then if they want to know the gradations, then they have to know from Shastra. So they have to come to Shastra.
Okay, okay, that's a good point. Something more?
Hare Krishna.
Some atrocities come or some challenges come in their life, and they
Like?
fervently, like some suppose family man is there, his son or daughter falls ill, and they earnestly pray to Krishna, please, and some other the child dies, so the faith will be shattered.
Okay, okay, that's a good point. Faith could be shattered in challenging situations. Okay, good. Neelmani?
There was one priest in America, his name was Kushner. So Rasham Prabhu tells his story. So his son was died, and that time he started preaching that there is no God.
Correct,
Although he was a preacher from his birth.
correct.
So that's how he spread so much of atheism.
Correct.
So just like in our ISKCON, there are many families who are DOT, but still, my point is they take it very cheaply, what they have got. And slowly, the dilution starts. Like that, we see the DOTs.
Okay, 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 your point is correct.
We have to check whether they are practicing casually or they really want to have the perfection. It's like that many people come and they think that, yes, Krishna is my boy, or like that. So some Sahaja people also come. So whether they have
ठीक
that.
है, उतना चीप नहीं है, अभी उनको पता है कृष्ण भगवान है, उतना तो पता है उनको.
But whether they want to achieve some perfection in their life, based on their motivation, it matters. If they really want to achieve perfection, otherwise many people are practicing around nearby them also, but who are getting benefit from that?
अच्छा, ठीक है, ठीक है. I'm looking for one more point, one very important point.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
उनको.
Hare Krishna. Sometimes we see people are like that, but they do what they like in home. But some Krishna told himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says you have to follow the as per Shastra. If you did not follow the Shastra, then there is no na siddhim na param gatim.
ठीक है.
So for accurate path, you have to follow Shastra, then you will get accurate result.
ठीक है. Okay.
Actually, their conception and consciousness cannot be right. They may worship Krishna, but with what conception? They may
No,
say,
they know Krishna is God.
but what do you mean by God? For that, they have
अरे
to refer
भगवान तो
Shastra.
भगवान है, अभी क्या है?
भगवान वर्ड का डेफिनेशन होता है.
अरे इतना बड़ा डेफिनेशन क्या है? वो भगवान तो सुप्रीम कंट्रोलर भगवान है, और क्या है?
बिकॉज जब तक आपको वो समझ में नहीं आएगा भगवान कौन है, तो आप
अरे कृष्ण भगवान है.
बट भगवान मतलब क्या है?
हाँ, भगवान मतलब जो सबको नियंत्रण करते हैं.
नहीं, वो तो ईश्वर का मतलब होता है, आपको पता ही नहीं डेफिनेशन. सॉरी टू से. So like that we can catch up them.
अच्छा, ठीक है. I'm still looking for one point. हाँ.
There is two types of people who are serving to Supreme Lord. On they are actually on fear. They're thinking, if I not worship to Lord, then something wrong with me.
Okay, out of fear they are worshiping. ठीक है, ठीक है.
And another person is भय से करता है और प्रेम से करता है.
हाँ, प्रेम से करता है. ठीक है. प्रेम तो बहुत दूर की बात है. हाँ, ड्यूटी. हाँ.
Any path of spirituality cannot be, a person cannot progress on it without guidance. So
Okay.
especially the role of Guru comes herein. When many such lineages have been there, then usually they take it for granted, and the orthodoxy just keeps on continuing throughout the generations. And instead of taking guidance from the Guru, even the Guru becomes seminal Guru, something like that it happens. Like even in say in case of Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur trying to, what we can say, over, means like he was against caste gosais and all those things because of that. And we cannot approach Krishna directly. It's always through Guru and through his instructions that one can approach Krishna.
ठीक है. So this influence of the modes So it's very nice. Somebody is in Sattva. So he's coming from a Sattvic background, Sattvic impressions. That's what is coming in the family. Okay, there is worship of Krishna going on in the family. Sab theek hai. But the influence of the modes can always be changed. Therefore, Prabhupada is writing here. What is writing? One strong, this is a third verse purport, second paragraph. One's faith may be in demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. One's strong faith is supposed to be productive of works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, no works are completely purified. They are mixed. They're not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In purified goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. And this is what we actually see, isn't it? So we find, okay, the person is, the family tradition is going on. But then after some time, what happens? Due to wrong association, सब खत्म हो जाता है. Why? Because goodness, material goodness can be very easily contaminated by passion and ignorance. We already discussed this point in 14 chapter 10th verse. Kya hai 14 chapter 10th verse? There's always competition between the modes for supremacy. So therefore, if someone may be in sattva now, but it does not mean that sattvic state is steady. He can easily be influenced by the lower modes at any moment. At any moment, he can be influenced by lower modes, and the sattva will come down. Did we discuss these 10 factors which influence the modes? I think so. I told you that reference, right? 11th canto. ठीक है, यहाँ वेद वैसा है यहाँ. हाँ, जा खोलो उसको. हाँ.
Question.
हाँ.
We have two questions, Pradeep.
I think so. You reserve your questions after this. First, we'll read this, then we'll take your questions. Maybe your questions will be answered by reading this. I hope you're okay with that.
Absolutely okay with that.
Huh?
Absolutely okay with that.
You're in Sattva after all. Bhagavatam 11th canto. If my memory is correct, it is 13th chapter. 13th है क्या? 13th क्या है? हम सब था. नहीं, कौन सा है? There is anyway, खोलो fourth खोलो क्या है? Fourth. Wow, it's good. My memory is not so bad. हाँ. Okay. So this is 11:13:4. Okay, in the previous verse and third verse, he says, religious principles strengthened by the mode of goodness destroy the influence of passion and ignorance. When passion and ignorance overcome, their original cause, irreligion, is quickly vanquished. So now he talks about these 10 factors which affect the influence of the gunas. What are they? आगमोप प्रजादेश काल कर्म च जन्म च ध्यानम मंत्रो तत संस्कारो दशैते गुण हेतवः. Okay, so what are the 10? First is agama, that is religious scriptures. Second is apa, that is water, water or any liquids, what one drinks. Then third is praja, association with people in general or one's children. So basically association. Then desha, place, kala, time, karma, activities, janma, birth, garbhadan sanskar and all that. Dhyanam, meditation, mantra, chanting of mantras, and sanskara. So these are 10 factors. Dasha ete guna hetava. So according to the quality of religious scripture, water, one's association, one's children, or with people in general, particular place, time, activities, birth, meditation, chanting of mantras, purified rituals, the modes of nature become differently prominent. The 10 items mentioned above possess superior and inferior qualities and others identified as being in goodness, passion, ignorance. One can increase the mode of goodness by selecting religious scriptures in goodness, pure water, friendship with other persons in goodness, and so on. One should scrupulously avoid any of these 10 items that may be polluted by an inferior mode of nature. Right? So, this is one's own practice. This one has to practice. One should scrupulously avoid. And then in the next purport, actually, they describe each of them. Among the 10 items I've just mentioned, the great sages who understand Vedic knowledge have praised and recommended those that are in the mode of goodness, criticized and rejected those in the mode of ignorance, and shown indifference to those in the mode of passion. Until one revives one's direct knowledge of the spirit soul and drives away illusory identification with the material body and mind caused by the three modes of nature, one must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. And that is why we find Krishna in this chapter as well as the next chapter. There's an elaborate discussion on especially the modes, influence of modes, right? In this chapter, Krishna is speaking about all these things, food in the modes, charity in the modes, knowledge, and so many things he's speaking about. Why? One must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. मतलब क्या है? ये हमारे हाथ में है. One must cultivate them. By increasing the mode of goodness, one automatically can understand and practice religious principles, and by such practice, transcendental knowledge is awakened. Now, in this purport, they are giving a little bit description of these 10 factors. Okay, somebody can read this. थोड़ा font छोटा है. कहाँ है? ये view कहाँ है? इसका cursor कहाँ है?
One who desires. I am having that purport.
आप पढ़ो.
One who desires to cultivate the mode of goodness must consider the following points. One should study religious scriptures that teach detachment from the mental speculation and material sense gratification, not scriptures that provide rituals and mantras to increase material ignorance. Such materialistic scriptures do not give attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus are basically atheistic. One should accept pure water for quenching thirst and cleaning the body. There is no need for a devotee to use colognes, perfume, whiskey, beer, etc.
So all that comes within that upper water.
Which are all polluted manifestations of water. One should associate with persons who are cultivating detachment from the material world and not with those who are materially attached or sinful in their behavior. One should live in a solitary place where devotional service is practiced and discussed among Vaishnavas. One should not be spontaneously attracted to busy highways, shopping centers, sports, stadiums, and so on. Concerning time, one should rise by 4 o'clock in the morning and utilize the auspicious Brahma Muhurta to advance in Krishna consciousness. Similarly, one should avoid the sinful influence of hours such as midnight when ghosts and demons are encouraged to become active. Concerning work, one should execute one's prescribed duties, follow the regulative principles of spiritual life, and utilize all of one's energy for pious purposes. Time should not be wasted in frivolous or materialistic activities, of which there are now literally millions in modern societies. One can cultivate birth in the mode of goodness by accepting the second birth of initiation from a bona fide spiritual master and learning to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. One should not accept initiation or so called spiritual birth in unauthorized mystical or religious cults in the modes of passion and ignorance. One should meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and similarly, one should meditate on the lives of great devotees and saintly persons. One should not meditate on lusty women and envious men. Concerning mantras, one should not follow.
One should follow.
Sorry. Concerning mantras, one should. Concerning mantras, one should follow the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and not other songs, verses, poetry, or mantras that glorify the kingdom of illusion. Purificatory rituals should be performed to purify the spirit soul and not to bring down material blessings on one's material household.
That is sanskaras.
One who increases the mode of goodness will certainly become fixed in religious principles, and automatically knowledge will arise. As knowledge increases, one is able to understand the eternal spirit soul and the supreme soul, the Lord Krishna. Thus, the soul becomes free from the artificial imposition of the gross and subtle material bodies caused by the mode of material nature. Spiritual knowledge burns to ashes the material designations that cover the living entity, and one's real eternal life begins.
Right. Okay. So these are 10 factors that influence the modes. And so therefore, if one is simply on sattva and one's worship and one's practices are based on sattva coming from previous sanskaras, then that can easily be changed due to the influence of these 10 factors, especially association. Right. So we find such people coming in nice pious families, they go to modern day schools and colleges, then what happens? Finished. Everything is finished. Right. Because it's only based on material sattva. That is good. But then that sattva one has to raise one's faith from the sattva gun to the transcendental platform. Right. As Srila Prabhupada is writing here, that as long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. So therefore, what is the faith that is in purified goodness? Yes, the Shastric faith, because where Shastra is coming from? Yes, Shastra is coming from the Supreme Lord. Shastra is free from 4 defects. So that is why that is transcendental. Therefore, when that faith is based on Shastra, then that faith rises to the transcendental platform. And therefore, that is what is very important. Otherwise, as long as the faith is not based on Shastra, then that faith can always be shaken. And that is why we find Rupa Goswami has taken the trouble in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu to give Shastric references for every anga of bhakti. Even something as simple as clapping. तो भारत में तो बहुत कॉमन है ना, लोग मंदिर में बैठकर ताली बजाते हैं. हाँ, कितने लोग आकर बजाते हैं ना ताली. ताली बजाने में क्या है? हाँ. But then how long the tali will go on, that is a question. And for whom? तो आज भगवान के सामने ताली बजाएंगे, कल पॉलिटिशियन के सामने ताली बजाएंगे, वही होता है ना. Why? Yes, because it is mostly sentimental. मुझे अच्छा लगता है, आज अच्छा लगेगा, कल अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, तो क्या फिर? So therefore, if it is simply sentimental, it can be changed. But when one performs that activity with faith in Shastra, that because Shastra is saying this, because Guru is saying this, therefore I am doing it, not because I simply like to do it. Therefore, even for us as devotees, developing that Shastriya Shraddha is very important. Naito, the same thing will happen even to us as devotees, if it is not based strongly on Shastra. Because as some devotees were saying, that even in the lives of devotees, there can be so many different challenges. There can be so many different difficulties. And if our faith is not fixed, then one could get bewildered in such challenging situations. भगवान मेरे साथ ऐसे क्यों कर रहे? These things happen. Even in the lives of proper devotees. And not only that, we find even devotees getting bewildered, going to some other non-bona fide organizations. Correct? Why? That means the faith on the Shastric principles is not strong. So therefore, that Shastric Shraddha has to gradually increase. वो बढ़ना चाहिए. To come to the point of Dhrida Shraddha. That Dhrida Shraddha comes at the stage of, yes, Nishtha. At the stage of Nishtha, there will be Dhrida Shraddha. Then there is no turning back. But till that point of, and of course, even from there, it has to further increase. But then at least if one is on the platform Dhrida Shraddha, then one's Shraddha will not be shaken. But still even then we still have the example of Bharat Maharaj. So that shows how material nature is so powerful. But at least one needs to come to the level of Nishtha. Otherwise, one can be swayed away. And the history of our organization shows that does not matter how many years one has spent. We find senior devotees in terms of years with number of followers, but still getting swayed away. So therefore, developing the Dhrida Shraddha based on Guru, Sadhu and Shastra is very important. And how to develop the Dhrida Shraddha? How to develop? Yes. The main factor is association. How does one associate? Yes. One of the main ways of association is by hearing and discussing and contemplating, applying, serving. That is how one associates. So the association is based upon how one gives a submissive oral reception to the sound vibration. ऐसा नहीं कि वो भागवत सप्ताह जैसे. हाँ अच्छा है, हमने सुना 7 दिन सुना. हाँ रोज 3 घंटे सुना हमने. No, that is what? That is आध्यात्मिक मनोरंजन. तो वैसे सुनने से कुछ होने वाला नहीं है. हाँ, नहीं तो कुछ लोग बैठते हैं क्लास में, क्यों? ठीक है, थोड़ा सर्टिफिकेट मिल जाएगा. हाँ, कुछ तो काम आएगा सर्टिफिकेट. हाँ. No, not like that. So, associating means that one is eager, one is hungry for the transcendental message. Therefore, Prabhupada has written right in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I suppose this comes right in the first verse purport. The eagerness to hear is the first qualification. So one must, just like we talk about attentive hearing when we are chanting, we are supposed to hear attentively. Similarly, when we are hearing a lecture, then one is supposed to hear attentively. Every sound, every word. The more one absorbs oneself in that sound vibration, one will get the benefit of that association. That is how one associates. So, and by that association, what one develops is that Dhrida Shraddha. Because when one associates with a person who has that faith, then one's consciousness becomes affected by that sound vibration. ये हम हमारे लॉजिक से नहीं समझ सकते हैं. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written in 1.2.18. What is 1.2.18? Famous verse. The next verse. अरे बीच का छोड़ दिया. श्रृणुतम स्वकदा कृष्ण तथा रजस, उस बीच में क्या? नष्ट प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यम. In that purport, Srila Prabhupada has written, human intelligence fails to understand how by associating with the Bhagavata such change can take place. But it is true. तो अभी क्या है, हम लॉजिक से नहीं समझ. अरे क्लास में बैठने से इतना चेंज होता है क्या? Right. Yes. Therefore, he has repeated all those verses there. तो फिर हम नहीं समझ सकते वो कैसे होता है, लेकिन होता है. That is the power of that sound vibration when it comes from the perfect source. That is the point. Why? Because that sound vibration is coming from the perfect source. It is coming from Krishna. So if one thinks like that, हाँ समझो भगवान कृष्ण आपके सामने खड़े होकर बोल रहे हैं, आप कैसे सुनेंगे? स्वयं भगवान आकर बोलेंगे, आपको लेक्चर देंगे, तो कैसे सुनेंगे? हाँ, तो वैसे ही सुनना है. हर क्लास को वैसे सुनना है. Because the message is coming from Krishna through parampara. If we have that faith and if we listen with that rapt attention, there's that famous purport Prabhupada has given, last verse of the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto. Rapt attention. Prabhupada has beautifully described. Who can hear with rapt attention? One who's pure in mind, he can hear with rapt attention. And who can be pure in mind? One who's purified in his eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So, and to the degree one gives that rapt attention, there Sutta Goswami is saying, I have listened with rapt attention to when I was hearing from Shukadev Goswami. And therefore, now I will repeat that same message. Yataditam yatamati, according to my own intelligence and realization. So the point is that is how that association brings about Dhrida Shraddha. That should be the result of the association. That faith. Just like the South Indian Brahmana at Sri Rangam. Prabhupada himself tells the story a few times. So because he was trying to follow the instruction of his spiritual master, that means what? He has heard from his spiritual master very attentively. And he was trying to follow that instruction of that spiritual master. What was the result of that? Yes, the Lord himself came. But then when Mahaprabhu asked him, why are there tears in your eyes? What did he say? What did he say? So he said, with every word that I read, I am able to see Krishna. That is the amount of faith he developed. Full faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, this is the goal of our spiritual practices. The goal is not how much learned one becomes or becoming a big scholar, knowing a number of verses. If one can do that, that's good. But that is not the goal. The goal is what? Developing this Dhrida Shraddha. That is the perfection. If one develops a Dhrida Shraddha, then one's spiritual practices will be perfect. Correct? That should be the result of the association. Then when one develops a Dhrida Shraddha, firm faith, which is not simply due to influence of modes. Modes matlab kya hai? Aaj acha lagega, kal acha nahi lag sakta. That is influence of modes, always changing, very dynamic. But when it is based on Shastra, Dhrida Shraddha, Shraddha on Guru Sadhu Shastra, then Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana. Then as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Vishwanath Thakur tells in the commentary to that verse, then it really does not matter whether samsara exists, whether samsara does not exist, whatever be the situation on the material platform, it does not matter. The instructions of the Guru become one's life and soul. The material factors will not affect one's firm faith in Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Doesn't matter. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, such was his faith that he wrote. We read that. So many times we quoted. 6th March 1966. याद है सबको भी? याद है? अरे हाँ, not Jaladuta, New York. But then what Srila Prabhupada said? I don't mind this inconvenience. I'm not disturbed by this inconvenience because I'm simply trying to follow the instruction of my Guru Maharaj. And for doing so, I'm ready to even go to hell. That is Dhrida Shraddha. Really does not matter. Hell or heaven does not matter. Any material condition does not matter. But I am ready to follow the instructions of Guru and Krishna at any cost. And that is exhibited to the highest degree on the Mahabhav platform in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtaka. Aslishyava padaratam pinashtamam adarshanan marmahatam karotuva. You can do whatever you like with me. You can embrace me, you can trample me, kuch bhi karo. सोचने वाली बात है. Sometimes we get little problem. लगता है अरे ये भक्ति तो बहुत मुश्किल है. हाँ, इस्कॉन में तो बहुत मुश्किल है. हाँ, लगता है कहीं और जाना चाहिए. हाँ, but you see, what is the standard of pure devotion? That is Drid Shraddha. That is our goal, to come to that platform. And of course, Srila Prabhupada has shown that. So, that comes by associating with somebody who has the Drid Shraddha. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes on that fact. Therefore, one should hear from a self-realized soul. Again, Prabhupada writes that. And of course, as far as we are concerned, we have no issues with that. We have no problems. We have a perfectly self-realized soul, Srila Prabhupada. And so therefore, by hearing him, hearing his message as is given in his books, if we have that quality, what we have to do is that quality hearing, quality reading, because every word that Srila Prabhupada has given here is filled with so much of realization. With every word we are reading, we are associating with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's consciousness that is put within these words. Therefore, that's famous pastime Shrutikirti Prabhu tells. Even if one reads one sentence, no, not in one sentence, one line, no, one word. Yes, Krishna. But that is the potency. If we hear attentively and we have faith, who is giving these words? If we have that faith, and with that consciousness, we're hearing, we're reading. Just like Yamuna Mataji should be so eager to hear Srila Prabhupada, every word of Srila Prabhupada. To the extent that even when Srila Prabhupada would sing bhajans to himself in his room, Mataji would sit outside the room to hear that sound vibration. Because she had full faith that that sound vibration is coming from the transcendental platform. Pure goodness. So it all depends on that consciousness with which we hear. नहीं तो हम सोच सकते हैं प्रभुपाद जी का वॉइस तो इतना सुंदर नहीं है. कुछ मिस्टेक्स भी होते हैं. श्लोक में भी मिस्टेक्स होते हैं. So we can hear with that type of consciousness, or we can hear with the consciousness that this is pure transcendental sound vibration coming from the spiritual world. So if we hear with that consciousness, then that is the benefit that we'll get. And that is how one develops Dhrida Shraddha, and that is our goal. Not Shraddha which is influenced by the three modes. And as long as one is within the material world, one's faith, one's actions, one's knowledge, everything is influenced by three modes. But the purpose of this entire discussion, which the Lord is giving, is to at least try to come to Sattva, as it's being mentioned here. One who increases the mode of goodness will certainly become fixed in religious principles, and automatically knowledge will arise, because Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. So the Sattva Guna is very favorable to developing Jnana, knowledge. So definitely one should try to come to Sattva, but that is also not our ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to come to the platform of understanding. As I say, as knowledge increases, then one is able to understand eternal spirit soul, supreme soul, Lord Krishna. So that is on the transcendental platform. And then the soul becomes free from the artificial imposition of gross and subtle material bodies caused by the modes of material nature. So that spiritual knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. So the spiritual knowledge is what? Transcendental knowledge. So when one comes to that transcendental knowledge and one has firm faith in that, then the result will be what? Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, burns to ashes the material designations that cover the living entity, and one's real eternal life begins. And till one comes to that platform, then one's faith is likely to be influenced by three modes. And then we'll find all these varieties of faith, varieties of worship, varieties of knowledge, varieties of foods. All this variety is because there are people who are influenced differently by the different modes. So this is the basic tattva behind this entire discussion that will commence now about the influence of three modes. Okay, any clarifications?
Roji, here in the purport of first three verses, that how the faith is described here. It comes from material activities that are also not purified, so it's not stable, and then all the stuff. And then different religious scriptures give different type of faith and all. And then in 7th chapter, Lord says, I steady the faith, I make the faith steady on the demigods. Now, how does that happen? What is the role of Lord in making that faith steady? How does he do that, if it is?
What's the difficulty for him to do?
No, I'm not telling difficulty, but I mean, how does he do? When the Lord says that I steady the faith of people on demigods, does it mean that because he has given the various scriptures for and various methods of worship for all these three categories of people? So he's telling that because of that procedure or that kind of process, I'm making their steady faith, or how does he do that?
During the churning of the milk ocean, everyone knows the pastime, right? So there were devas, asuras, and the churning rope was Vasuki. And the churning rod was Mandap. Churning शुरू किया, फिर क्या हुआ? हाँ? हाँ, तो वो वासुकी से मुंह से क्या निकलना है? हाँ, वो आग निकलनी है. So then, and the asuras were towards the head side, devas to tail side. Anyway, तो सब लोग थक गए. हाँ, सब लोग थक गए. वासुकी भी थक गया, ये देवास सब थक गए. हाँ, और वो इतना वजन था बीच में. So almost so many of them fainted. Then what did the Lord do? Correct. So then what the Lord did was, he increased the sattva for the devatas, he increased rajas for the asuras, and he increased tamas for Vasuki. Then they got strength. This is what the Lord does. So the asuras, okay, so somebody wants to worship a devata. So then whatever faith is required for that person to worship that devata, the Lord, by basically the manipulation of these three modes, that is how faith increases. So that's what the Lord does. He does this manipulation of three modes, then that faith will increase. So just like even for us as devotees, what happens? Well, that is the entire discussion of the first chapter of the 7th canto. Lord is equal to everyone. If you read that entire analysis there in that chapter, how Lord is actually equal, but then how still we find differences. So the basic point is that okay, so I was saying that even as devotees, So what happens when one commits a Vaishnava aparadh? What happens? So basically, Krishna is upset. So when Krishna becomes upset and he withdraws his mercy, then what happens? So basically, what is happening is the sattva reduces. This is what Krishna does. It's all a play of three modes. Sattva reduces. Moment sattva reduces, what happens? Rajas and tamas come up. Once rajas and tamas come up, what happens? Gyan gets covered. Gyan gets covered. Moment Gyan gets covered, then what happens? Then everything appears to be material. Knowledge is covered. Shastra ka Gyan, he may know all the verses also. Still it does not work. Theoretical knowledge by itself does not help. We are not referring to theoretical knowledge, therefore. So, when the Rajas and Tamas increases, then the knowledge gets covered, ignorance increases, then everything spiritual appears to be material. And his taste for spiritual activities reduces. That's what happens. So this is all a play of the three modes. The Lord plays around with these three modes. So same thing happens in the fight between Devas and Asuras. Why sometimes Devas win and sometimes Asuras win? That is the question there. 7th canto, 1st chapter. It appears as if the Lord is partial. Sometimes, so he appears that mostly he takes side of Devatas and the Devatas win. But it is not that Krishna takes side of Devatas. The Devatas are mostly in Sattvagun, therefore they win. And when their Sattvagun reduces, they also lose. So we know the famous pastime. Which one? Yes. Indra offends Brihaspati, then finished. All power gone. Same Devatas, but all power gone. Why? Then Krishna didn't take their side. It's all based on this. So, and similarly at that same time, the Asuras worshipped Shukracharya. They became victorious. So that is what happens in this world. And this is how Krishna plays around with these three modes. ठीक है ना? हाँ जी.
So you said that because Devatas, they are mainly in Sattvagun. That's why they win. So even if they are offending Brihaspati or Durvasa Muni once also, say they lose. But still their goodness is more than Asuras. So how Asura is winning and Devatas are losing?
So that is what happens. So because of the offense at that point of time, the sattva reduces. Because that is the effect of the offense. First of all, the offense is itself committed because of increase in rajas. Correct? Indra was busy with his sense enjoyment. Therefore, he did not offer respects to Brihaspati. That itself is due to rajas. Correct? And then when one acts in rajas, say one thing is to be influenced by rajas, and the second thing is to act in rajas. For example, so I can be influenced by rajas. So the rajogun is pushing me. ये भक्त कैसा भक्त है, बेकार भक्त है, एक थप्पड़ मारो. The rajas is influencing me. But now, if I have considerable faith in Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and I've done my homework of application to produce some realization, if I've done that homework, then I will be able to withstand the push of the Rajogun. And even though the Rajogun is pushing, I refrain from acting. And when I refrain from acting, then I don't allow the rajas to further increase. On the other hand, if I become a victim of the rajogun, then what will happen? The rajogun will further increase and one will get further covered. And this is how the downfall begins. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written here, very important statement in the purport to the second verse. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and scriptures. कभी-कभी भक्त लोग भी कहते हैं, so when a devotee does something wrong and then we ask him, ऐसा क्यों किया? So कभी भक्त लोग क्या करे, ये मेरा स्वभाव है, कहते हैं ना? हाँ, बात ठीक है, स्वभाव है, लेकिन क्या है, उस स्वभाव को हम बदल सकते हैं. On what basis? गुरु, साधु, शास्त्र. So therefore, अभी लग रहा है, इसको थप्पड़ दो, लग रहा है, मन में लग रहा है, लेकिन क्या है? I have to, that time I have to meditate. On what? Yes, instructions of Guru Sadhu. Will my spiritual master be pleased if I do this? उस टाइम वो सोचना पड़ेगा. So then that requires, if one has worked on some purification before that, then one will have that spiritual strength to say no. Even though the modes are pushing, lower modes are pushing, but still one will have that spiritual strength to say no. And that is how one, either makes progress or one goes down. So on the basis of that knowledge, if one acts and does not act by instincts pushed by the lower modes, then that is how the sattva increases, and that's how one makes further progress.
Yes, Prabhuji. So means when demons, they worship their spiritual master Shukracharya, so say their mode of goodness increases, we can say like this?
Yes, they get blessings from their spiritual master. Shukracharya is pleased, they get blessings, and that sattva increases, and that sattva creates favorable situation for them.
In the first verse, we see Arjun asks that these principles are based on imagination. So now, if already in the 16th chapter, Krishna has told two categories, one who follows scriptures and one who does not follow scriptures. So one is classified as demigods and one is classified as demons. So basically, it's like a partial division of the demon category only.
Yes, it's true, but still, as he says, Shraddhayanvitaha. See, the asuras, they don't have faith in anything. No faith. No faith in scripture, no faith in anything. So, totally demoniac life. But these people, what Arjuna is asking, they have firm faith in what they're doing. They have firm faith. You may say it is imagination, you may say whatever. But they have firm faith in whatever they're doing. Therefore, they're not in that faithless category like the asuras. The asuras, they don't have faith at all. But these people have faith.
So basically, it's altogether a different category only.
Yes. So, in one sense, because that faith is not based on scripture, you could still call them asuras. But still, it's a clarification Arjuna is asking, because Krishna didn't specifically speak about these types of people. So therefore, he's seeking a clarification. Though, in a broad sense, you could still say that they fall into the asura category.
And Prabhuji, like sometimes if one person has faith on his say, spiritual master or Lord, and it's a bona fide spiritual master, so then how he may not have that much shastric knowledge, shastric philosophy. Like recently, one or two.
So that's why that's why we clarify that point. That is not based upon theoretical knowledge. It is not based upon. For that, you can read purport to 10.10. 10.10 purport, if you remember, there Srila Prabhupada writes, if one cannot take advantage of either the organization or the bona fide spiritual master.
Still one should perform.
Yes. And then what
And
happens?
Krishna within
Dadami buddhi yogam. So therefore, it is not based upon simply theoretical knowledge, one's ability to memorize verses. It's not based upon all this. Whatever basic knowledge one has, with that, one's sincere practice. If one's sincere practice to please Guru and Krishna is there, then Krishna reveals everything. And the person develops firm faith. See, ultimately, there's one very beautiful lecture of Srila Prabhupada, which he gives on one of the Chaitanya Charitamrita verses. You can listen to that. Amazing. At least 5-6 times in that lecture, Srila Prabhupada, he repeats one point. If one simply understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, then one's life is perfect. The same point he repeats 5-6 times. If one simply understands Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, one's life is perfect. So, अरे इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? From day one, we are hearing Krishna is Supreme Personality of God. What's the big deal there? But that simple statement, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nitya Das, that is the beginning of knowledge, and that is also the end of knowledge. On the highest platform of prema. Right in the beginning, we hear that, but that full realization of that statement takes place at the level of prema. So therefore, we are not talking about theoretical knowledge. And whenever Shastras speak about knowledge, it's only referred to realized knowledge. Theoretical knowledge, there are so many people having theoretical knowledge. There's no big deal. Prabhu, I hope that. Bolo.
That South Indian Brahmana story you told. So he was just whatever he has heard properly from spiritual master. So that's why he was able to got the result. So we also hear, but how we can have that simplicity that he was having? He was not a learned person, but still he got the success. So how we can also have?
So therefore, what is important is the quality of hearing. Quality of hearing. That is what makes the difference. Just like to quote a few references in this context. Okay, 2.8.4. These 3 verses of Parikshit Maharaj. Shranvata Shraddhaya Nityam Grinatascha Swacheshtitam Kalena Nati Dirgena Bhagavan Vishate Ridhi. So 2 things I said over here. What? Shranvata Shraddhaya Nityam. So one has to have faith while hearing. Faith in hearing means one has to understand that this is something which is very important for me. नहीं तो आजकल तो बहुत आसान है, क्लास में बैठो और मोबाइल निकालो और 10 चीज करो साथ में. होता है कि नहीं? सबको एक्सपीरियंस है. That means what? If one is doing like that, what does it mean? देखो, जब हम भोजन करते हैं, प्रसाद लेते हैं. Of course, these days, even during that time, people are doing other things, but mostly one focuses, no? Especially अगर आपका favorite item है तो. हाँ. फीस्ट तो ठीक है, फीस्ट में भी फेवरेट आइटम. हाँ. तो फिर वो पूरा एकाग्र चित्त से वो उसका आस्वादन करेगा। सही है ना? हाँ, व्यक्ति और कुछ डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं चाहिए, अभी पूरा इस पर फोकस। अभी ठीक है, कोई कहेगा अभी ठीक है, वो तो प्रसाद में तो हमें टेस्ट है, अभी तो इसमें तो वो टेस्ट नहीं है, तो क्या करेगी? तो क्या करना चाहिए? हाँ हाँ, therefore the next line is what? गृणतश्च स्वचेष्टितम। क्या करना पड़ेगा? चेष्टा। चेष्टा, चेष्टा मतलब प्रयास। So even though one does not have the taste, one still has to endeavor to hear. With that faith. हाँ, endeavor to hear. हाँ, और क्या? और कुछ नहीं है। There's no और। नहीं, जो भी सुन रहे हो, just focus on that. Focus on that hearing. क्लास में बैठे हैं बस। नेक्स्ट वर्स क्या है? प्रविष्ट कर्णरंध्रेण स्वानाम भावसरोरुहम धुनोति शमलम कृष्ण सलीलस्य यथा शरत। हाँ, तो पहला लाइन क्या है? प्रविष्ट कर्ण रंध्रेण, अंदर जाना चाहिए, दवाई अंदर जाना चाहिए। दवाई अंदर नहीं जाएगा तो क्या काम करेगा? अंदर जाना चाहिए ना। हाँ, दवाई, एक दवाई मुंह से लेते हैं, ये भव औषधि, भव औषधि, ये कैसे जाता है? कर्ण, कर्ण थ्रू द ईयर्स, बट एटलीस्ट इट हैज टू गो इनसाइड। अंदर जाएगा ही नहीं तो काम कैसे करेगा? दैट इज द सेम focus, whether it is chanting or Krishna Katha, same thing. Krishna Katha ho ya chanting, both are non-different from Krishna. Yes or no? Non-different from Krishna. We have to allow that sound vibration to go inside. Pravishta karna randrena. That is our endeavor. That is the grinatascha svacheshtitam. तो अभी क्या होता है? We all have this rajas and tamas don't allow us to do that, correct? Because of tamogun, what happens? Sleep. And rajogun, mind wandering. So because of these two, one is unable to focus. But in spite of that, one has to make the endeavor. Just like Srila Prabhupada. What did Srila Prabhupada say regarding his hearing from his spiritual master? Huh? Bolo. Srila Prabhupada says, I couldn't even understand what my spiritual master was speaking. हम क्या करेंगे? अगर समझ में नहीं आते तो क्या करेंगे हम? हाँ, क्या करेंगे? उठकर चले जाएंगे ना। अरे समझ में नहीं आ रहा, क्या करना है अभी? But Prabhupada says, still I would sit and hear. That is the faith in that sound vibration. It is not about understanding. तो हमें क्या लगता है? नहीं, सबको, हमारे जो छोटा दिमाग है उसे सब कुछ समझना चाहिए, लॉजिकली एनालिटिकली सब समझना चाहिए, ये वो नहीं। दैट इज वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ इट, बट मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन दैट इज व्हाट? द प्यूरिफिकेशन दैट टेक्स प्लेस बाय हियरिंग, बिकॉज इट इज ट्रांसेंडेंटल साउंड वाइब्रेशन। गोलोकेर प्रेम धन हरिनाम संकीर्तन, वो हरिनाम हो या कृष्ण कथा हो, इट इज सेम थिंग. So when we have that faith and then we make our endeavor to hear attentively, allowing that sound vibration to go inside, And we have also quoted this quite a few times. 4th canto, 20th chapter, 25th verse. किसको याद है? हाँ हाँ, ये क्या चल रहा है ये ऑन? 4:20:25, read the second paragraph of the purport.
A pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet. And therefore, he has a direct connection with the saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky. The voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything.
You're right. So, tamashlokamahan mukhachuto bhavat padamboj sudha kananilah smritim punar vismrita tattva vartmanam kuyoginam no vinat alamvarai. So anyway, he's asking for these, this Prithu Maharaj speaking to the Supreme Lord. Such glory, so he's saying such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. This Prithu Maharaj asking benediction from the Supreme Lord. This is the benediction he is asking for. This is the importance of hearing. At the perfected stage, Prithu Maharaj is asking for this benediction. Why? Because this is the power of that hearing. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. Because the pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet, therefore he has a direct connection with the saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, what is very important is that we hear from such devotees who have dedicated themselves to the service of the Lord. Because more the dedication, more they attract mercy. Especially in Kali Yuga, the tendency is to be very superficial. And people are looking for what satisfies the mind and intelligence. Let me hear from those people who will satisfy my mind and intelligence. No, but it doesn't work that way. Then that is all what we'll get. We won't get spiritual progress. What we will get? Satisfaction of mind and intelligence. That's all what we'll get. But if one is interested in making spiritual progress, then one has to associate with those who are always engaged in the service of the Lord and who have dedicated themselves to that service. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada's dedication to his spiritual master is practically unparalleled. What is Prabhupada's dedication? That's what we're reading. He's ready to go to hell to satisfy his spiritual master. Such is his dedication. And therefore we find what mercy flowed through him, created a revolution in the entire world. Even though apparently Srila Prabhupada's lectures are quite simple, not very scholarly. But what was the effect that those words created? Why? This is the reason. Direct connection with the saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky. तो वैसे ही लगता है ना, अरे क्या स्पेशल है इसमें, अरे वही लग रहा है हाँ उसमें भी बंगाली एक्सेंट है, ये है वो है. But what is the result? The voice is spiritually very powerful, not materially. What? Spiritually very powerful. Why? Because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. That is what? Mercy, mercy. वो भगवान की कृपा से ओतप्रोत है. And therefore, when that sound vibration goes inside, what happens? As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the power, but he should hear, na? अभी सुनेगा ही नहीं तो क्या फर्क पड़े? He should hear. When he hears that, then immediately remembers his eternal relation. Although up until that moment, he had forgotten. And therefore he says, for a conditioned soul, therefore, it is very important. What? Very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord without any material desire. See, these are the qualifications of a pure devotee. Speculative knowledge or contamination of the modes of material nature. And so therefore, so hearing from Srila Prabhupada and hearing from those who are repeating Prabhupada's words in parampara, then that sound vibration, because it's coming from the perfect source, therefore it has great effect. And that effect is what is important. That transformation is what is important. Yes, bro. Before the break.
I think the 10th chapter we were discussing hearing in the association of devotees has a power. Prabhupada mentioned it a couple of times there.
Correct.
So now many times now this online thing has this recording and other things. So and we practically can feel the effect is not the same.
Perfect.
So, but the like as you told that it should allow, we should allow the ear to enter, and although the machine is vibrating, but it's a pure transcendental vibration.
So therefore, given the choice, one should definitely prefer to hear in the association of devotees. There's no doubt about it.
But Prabhupada's physical association is not there.
So so that's what, no. As far as Srila Prabhupada is concerned, do we have any other option? No, we don't have option. So then we hear. But that also is equally powerful. That also is equally powerful. And as far as others are concerned, so whenever possible, definitely sitting in the association of devotees, hearing, very important, because then it creates the right atmosphere. So I'll just like over here, because everyone is sitting here, then at least superficially, at least one is not trying to do many other things. नहीं तो वो ऑनलाइन बैठकर सुनेंगे तो फिर वो कौन कौन से पोज में सुनते हैं भगवान जाने. वो अलग अलग पोज में, फिर मन कहीं और. So much parallel processing, what not happens. So therefore, at least out of lok lajja, one will try to sit and hear attentively. Therefore, the association, hearing and association, and of course, when the sincere devotees, then it creates that spiritual ambience, the spiritual atmosphere. So, great benefit is there, hearing and association. When no option, what to do? Okay? Okay, time for break. Hare Krishna. Take 10 minutes break and Hare Krishna. Now, the further discussion will be quite simple to understand, because based upon this faith, then we find all the differences. Okay, Prabhupada's lecture, please read.
Hare Krishna. Divisions of faith. Therefore, Krishna says here, Trividha bhavati shraddha dehinam sa swabhavaja. If one is cultivating his life like hawks and cats and dogs, the behavior is also like that, and remaining in that position, so his faith and one who is advanced, one who is worshipping deity and having 3 times bath and chanting mantras, Hare Krishna, they are not equal. That is not possible because one is situated in the Sattva Guna and the other is situated in Tamoguna. Although the Tamogunas, the persons who are in the darkness of knowledge, they have got their faith. It is not that they have no faith. They have got faith, but that faith is in the lowest status of life. That faith will not help him for spiritual realization.
So yes, faith is there, but then that is on a very low status. So based on Tamogun. And therefore, we find that people are very convinced, isn't it? A person who is worshipping a certain devata or whatever type of worship they're doing, they're very convinced. This is best. So somebody may be worshipping some even some bogus guru. We find such staunch fanatic followers they have. So we see that, right? Such staunch followers they have. They have faith. Ye hamara Bhagwan hai. And we'll achieve perfection by following this Bhagwan. So why they have that faith? Because they are influenced by that type of modes. So therefore, we cannot change that very abruptly because they're very convinced. And that is why Srila Prabhupada, he gradually he elevated people. So initially it was mostly Harinam, Prasad. So people like music. So that's how they initially came, with all their musical instruments and all that. So, and then Prabhupada was giving Prasad. So that's how gradually, when the consciousness, level of consciousness was raised, then they were in a position to actually appreciate the transcendental knowledge. So if one wants to come to the transcendental platform, then ultimately the solution is, as Prabhupada is saying here, associating with a bona fide spiritual master, abide by his rules and the scriptures. And then gradually, Prabhupada is writing here, gradually one can change his position from ignorance to goodness or from passion to goodness. Okay, 4th verse. Yajante satvika devan yaksharaksham rajasaha pretan bhutaganam shanye yajante tamasa janaha. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. Those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Now, another point, as we will be reading now, so many things in 3 modes. Worship in 3 modes, foods in 3 modes, so on and so on. So now everywhere Krishna describes like this. Those are in goodness, do this. Those in passion, do this. Those in tamas, do it. But we must always remember that there are always going to be, yes, mixtures and all types of shades, practically unlimited shades of these 3. And so therefore, Krishna is giving a broad understanding But yet we should always know that there are always going to be different permutations and combinations. So that understanding we should always have. Okay, we can read the purport. कौन लाइन में कौन है?
Purport. In this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes different kinds of worshippers according to their external activities. According to scriptural injunction, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. But those who are not very conversant with or faithful to the scriptural injunction worship different objects according to their specific situation in the modes of material nature. Those who are situated in goodness generally worship the demigods. The demigods include Brahma, Shiva, others such as Indra, Chandra, and Sun God. There are various demigods. Those in goodness worship the particular demigod for particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. We recall that during the Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshipped Hitler because thanks to that war he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. Similarly, those in the modes of passion and ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. They think that anyone can worship as a god and that the same result will be obtained. Now, it is clearly described here that those who are in the mode of passion worship and create such a gods, and those who are in the mode of ignorance in darkness worship dead spirits. Sometimes people worship at the tomb of some dead man. Sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of darkness. Similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshippers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class of people sometimes go to the forest, and if any have knowledge that a ghost lives in a tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. These different kinds of worships are not actually God worship. God worship is for persons who are transcendentally situated in pure goodness. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4.3.23, it is said that Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. When a man is situated in a pure goodness, he worships Vasudev. The purport is that those who are completely purified of the material modes of nature and who are transcendentally situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form in the material world, which is known as philosophies Vishnu. Vishnu is expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form in the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through association with persons who are of transcendental nature.
Okay, so based upon the modes, different types of worship, those in Sattva worship Devatas. But then again, as we were describing, so here the examples of Shiva is also given. But then are all worshippers of Lord Shiva in Sattva? No. So we can say, okay, some Sattva may be there. But then at the same time, we have all these Asuras worshipping Lord Shiva. Totally in Tamogun. Like Vrikasur, Ravan, totally tamasic worship. So therefore, it's all mixed. We cannot say that those are worshippers of devatas are always in sattva. Hmm? And then there are others who are worshipping so many, as Prabhupada says, what? Those who create gods. They create, those in the mode of passion, worship and create such gods. So they imagine some human being to be God and they worship. So all this is happening due to the influence of the lower modes. And the Mayavadis, Panchopasna. So that is in Sattva. So if they're worshipping the Supreme Lord, so that is definitely in Sattva. But again, Sattva is never pure in the material world. So therefore, then they're influenced by the lower modes. Then there could be so many material contaminations and that worship also. And as we were discussing, then if they continue to remain on that platform, then there's a great risk of being influenced by the lower modes and they may give up that worship also. So therefore, they have to elevate themselves. They have to come to the transcendental platform by developing proper Shraddha in Guru Sadhu Shastra.
Like the devotees have faith that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So similarly, those who are in Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they worship particularly demigods. So they have full faith that that personality is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or kind of.
Yeah, so sometimes we do find that. So somebody who is worshipping Shiva may have faith that yes, Shiva is supreme. Mahadev, Shiva, same. So they may have faith that yes, this person is supreme, and there are Puranas glorifying that personality also in the same way. And that is what Krishna does. So that is how you are asking that question. Now, how he increases faith. So there are Puranas also to substantiate what they're doing. So then they develop that type of faith. But why the Lord is doing all this? It's ultimately based on? Yes, it's based on desire. So ultimately it's based on the person. The person has a desire to do that type of worship, to enjoy sense gratification. Then that type of, then he's influenced by the modes in that way. Then everything becomes influenced that way. So ultimately it's all based on desire. So only when one has a sincere desire to come out of that situation, entangling situation, one comes into the association of bona fide spiritual master, then that's the only hope. Okay. So therefore, as today morning's Bhagavatam class, we were hearing Mataji stressing so much on distributing books. So that's the only thing which will save people actually. So when they read the books, they get the association of the pure devotee, they get the knowledge, then that's what will help them come out of the influence of. Otherwise, there's no other way. There's no other. I mean, we can all meditate on our own lives, right? How did we come out of that situation? Only association. There's no other way. The only thing that can save a jiva from material existence is association of a devotee. There's no other way. Therefore, one has to be extremely grateful to the association of devotees. Because it is only that association which saves one. And that is why Shastras again and again, they give so much emphasis on that association. Is that association which saves the jiva from material existence, and it is that association which sustains one and helps one progress. Without that association, there's no hope. So Srila Prabhupada went, he gave his association, and then from that some devotees were created, and then they gave their association. That is how the movement spread. And therefore Srila Prabhupada in his lectures, he says, we have started so many centers all over the world just for this purpose, so that people get a chance to associate with devotees. Because that's the only thing which will change a person's life. Okay, 5 and 6. Ashastra-vihitam goram tapyante ye tapojanaha dhambāṅkāra-sanyukta kāmarāga bhalanvitaha karshayanta sharirastham bhūtagramam achetasaha mam chaivanta sharirastham tan vidyasura nishyayan. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. So, ashastra vihitam. So they are performing some worship, they're performing some tapyante ye tapo janaha. So they are performing tapaha, but it is ashastra vihitam. It is not as directed by scriptures. So what type of tapasya they're performing? Ghoram. Harmful to themselves, harmful to others. So such type of tapasya they perform. And why do they perform? Damba ahankara sanyukta. Because of pride, they want to show others. Damba means making a show. How great I am, what can I do? So their pride and egoism. So because of that, they perform such type of tapasya. And what they're doing? Karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam. So they're giving trouble to the body, the combination of material elements, and also to the Lord situated within the body. Sharirastham. Mam. Sharirastham. Mam cha. So how they give trouble to the super soul within the body? Huh? Who will feel bad? Why? क्या फर्क पड़ता है? अच्छा. Because yes, aham bija pradapita. So his pita, his father. So he sees the beta is doing some nonsense. How the father feels? He feels, na? Although he is not personally affected, but still he feels that this child is going in the wrong direction. So that's the reason why he feels. And that's the reason he's affected. Otherwise, the Lord is Atmaram. He has nothing to do. So here Prabhupada is also speaking about those who perform fasting for political purposes, political, social purposes. So, there are people doing that. So all this is in the Rajogun and Tamogun. They are not mentioned. Such unauthorized fasting or austerities for some political end are certainly very disturbing to others. They are not mentioned in the Vedic literature. A demoniac person may think that he can force his enemy or other parties to comply with his desire by this method, but sometimes one dies by such fasting. These acts are not approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he says that those who engage in them are demons. Such demonstrations are insults to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they enacted in disobedience to the Vedic scriptural injunctions. The word achetasaha is significant in this connection. Persons of normal mental condition must obey the scriptural injunctions. Quite interesting, huh? Persons of normal mental condition. That means those who don't obey. Actually, this is based on which verse? Nonam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya apranoti. So pramattaha, as Prabhupada in the lecture he says, sufficiently mad. So that is what Prabhupada is referring to. So if somebody is not mad, then he will obey. So somebody who is not obeying, he is not in a normal mental condition. Those who are not in such a position neglect and disobey the scriptures and manufacture their own way of austerities and penances. One should always remember the ultimate end of the demoniac people, as is in the previous chapter. The Lord forces them to take birth in the wombs of demoniac persons. Consequently, they will live by demoniac principles, life after life without knowing their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If, however, such persons are fortunate enough to be guided by a spiritual master who can direct them to the path of Vedic wisdom, they can get out of this entanglement and ultimately. That is the only hope, only solution. There's no other solution. Only way to get bhakti is from yes, that's the only way. Okay. Seventh. आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, charity. Now here are the distinctions between them. So this is what Krishna is going to speak now. So Prabhupada writes an important statement here. Those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. So therefore, one has to discriminate. So in one's own life also, one needs to discriminate. The purpose of studying all this is so that one can analytically understand, discriminate. What am I doing? Am I doing things in Rajogun, Tamogun, Satugun? What am I doing? थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा ना? क्यों सोचना है? क्यों सोचना है? आगे कहाँ बढ़ना है? So one, as we're discussing, at least one should try to come to Sattva. So therefore one has to analyze one's own life, whether I'm doing things in Sattva or Rajas or Tamas. Now foods in three modes. Ahar. Very interesting topic, huh? Ahar. Okay. Ayu Sattva Balarogya Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha Rasya Snigdha Stiraridhya Ahara Satvika Priyaha. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness. So you can see the wording. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness. That means what? Those who are in Sattvagun like such type of foods. So the problem is not with the food. Problem is with whom? With the person. Foods are inanimate. Correct? Foods are inanimate. But who is influenced by the modes? The person is influenced by the modes. And therefore he likes certain types of foods. The modes are acting on what? The subtle body. Correct? Of the living person. That is where the modes are acting. And therefore, they have an inclination for a certain type of foods. Therefore, the foods can be called sattvic. But the problem is not with the food. The problem is with the person. It just reminds me of something. I'm not recollecting exactly, but one devotee was saying that something to this effect, that these foods are in Tamogun, therefore they're problematic, something like that. And then Prabhupada immediately said, no, the foods are not rascal, you are rascal. So because the foods are inanimate, right? Why to blame them? They are not to be blamed. They are not to be blamed. They are not living creatures. They are not to be blamed. But the person is influenced by certain mode, therefore he likes certain food stuff. What is your argument?
What I'm trying to tell is, see, but they stimulate such kind of effects. No, it's not, although the person chooses, but it has got to do with foods also, because those stimulate such kind of. Is it not true, Broji? That means, it means if someone is not, let's say if I am not affected by something which is in mode of ignorance as per this, that means I can eat those foods.
What? Say it again.
What I'm telling is, Broji, that
See, if one is influenced by sattva, then he will not even look at those type of foods which are in tamas. Okay, you deal with the mobile.
no, but I'm asking Broji, he will not look at those food at tamaguna, but I'm telling, if let's say if he eats, let's say if he's fed by any means, by kind of deceit or something, by any means, I'm telling, will it not affect him? That's what I'm asking. If he's, see, now you are telling that he'll not look at those things, but if he's fed by deceit, let's say, but you're telling that still it will not affect his consciousness.
Balaji Laddu famous.
Okay, he wants to say.
So this past time I read in TKJ's diary that Prabhupada was in aeroplane. It is in late 1977. And the air hostess was coming and she was serving some liquid.
7-Up.
Not 7-Up. 7-Up is... So Prabhupada asked what it is. So devotees thought it may be some water or something. So they gave it to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was very ill that time. So Prabhupada drank a bit and he gave Mahamaha to the servants. That time Pradyumna Prabhu was there. And when Pradyumna Prabhu tasted it, was champagne actually.
What is that?
Champagne, alcohol.
Oh, acha.
So then he writes that Prabhupada was not affected by such things.
Yes. So of course, for a person on such an elevated platform, then obviously he will never be affected by. Okay, of course, occasionally, accidentally, that's a different thing. But as far as if we take, so then because that substance itself definitely has certain properties. Agreed. So definitely that substance also has certain properties which will put one in a tamasic state. So that's agreed that it's like a good combination. The substance also has certain properties, and that is why it is liked by people in that mode. So both go hand in hand. Good friends, both go hand in. That's correct. Right. So therefore, a devotee cannot think that, unless, of course, somebody who's actually on the transcendental platform will always be careful. But then a devotee cannot think that now I'm transcendental platform, therefore I can eat anything and everything and I will not be affected. One cannot think like that. So because now I'm not on the transcendental platform, so therefore whatever I eat will definitely affect my consciousness. So therefore one definitely has to be careful. But the basic principle is this. The basic principle is that those who are affected by a certain mode will be influenced by foods which are of that particular quality.
In PQP, perfect question, perfect answer. In that one conversation regarding this food, it was so Mahaprasad, about Mahaprasad, the discussion is going on. So the discussion is about devotees compare about Mahaprasad, that this Mahaprasad is good, this is not good. So Prabhupada was saying that this is not, he is not a perfect devotee. He should accept whatever is there, and even that will not affect his anything.
Correct.
Consciousness. So we generally distinguish that this sabji is not that much good. Okay, this is Mahaprasad, that is good. So we should also try to not to distinguish that. Or
see, if it is, the Lord's Mahaprasad, anyways, how much you will get? That will not make a big difference. But then the other prasad that we are taking, then definitely I have to see what is suitable for my health, what is not suitable for my health. I have to see all that. Because now I'm very much within the influence of the modes. And so definitely I have to take into consideration these things. But when it comes to the Lord's Mahaprasad or the Guru's Mahaprasad, so there's this pastime in Mayapur. Maybe I mentioned it before, I don't remember. So that time only Lotus building was there, and Srila Prabhupada's quarters we know on the top floor. And so when Srila Prabhupada would finish his prasad, and Shrutigiti Prabhu or Harishori Prabhu, whoever, they would bring out the remnants. So then right from top to down, there would be long line of devotees on the staircase, all waiting for Maha Prasad. And then those who are who have the good chance of taking the Mahama initially, then they would choose जो उनको पसंद है, the sweets and all that. और फिर अंत में वो सर्वेंट को क्या बचता था? लींबू और मिर्ची. So that was what would remain, and others would take everything else. So then somehow Srila Prabhupada came to know that this is what is happening. Devotees are choosing in the Mahaprasad. So Prabhupada said, mix everything. Mix everything. So then when everything was mixed, the number of devotees standing on the staircase reduced. But then, I think it's Shrutikirti Prabhu says, but then he got a lot of Mahaprasad because there were not many people to take the Mahaprasad. So in any case, as far as that is concerned, okay, no need to discriminate. Anyways, one gets little only, but otherwise one has to take care. Yes. Okay. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness. So what are the qualities? Increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Okay, 9. Katvam lavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha shoka maya prada. Foods that are too bitter, too sour. That too has to be added to all those adjectives. Too bitter, too sour, too salty, too hot, too pungent, too dry and burnt. That ati. Lavana, ati ushna. That word ati has to be added to all the adjectives. Because in anything in moderate amounts is not harmful. When it becomes ati, बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है, तो फिर समस्या है. So then it is dear to those in the mode of passion. तो जो रजोगुण में होते हैं, तो जब तक वो आंख, कान और नाक से सबसे कुछ पानी नहीं निकलता है, तब तक कुछ मजा नहीं आए. So that is somebody in Rajogun, then automatically they're attracted to those type of foods. What is the result of eating those type of foods? Dukkha, shoka, amaya. These are the results. So this is in sequential order. तो खाते समय क्या होता है? दुख होता है. हालांकि उनको वो भ्रमित अवस्था में सुखी रहते हैं, लेकिन वास्तव में वो दुख है ना. दुख होता है. और फिर खाने के बाद क्या होता है? खाने के बाद वो सब फिर पेट में गड़बड़ होता है, एसिडिटी बढ़, सब गड़बड़ है. फिर क्या होता है? शोक. अरे क्यों खाया मैंने, नहीं खाना था. शोक. और फिर उसके बाद क्या होता है? आमया. फिर डिजीज होता है, बीमारी. सो दीज आर द इफेक्ट्स. शोक, Dukkha, Shoka, Amaya. Okay. 10. Prabhupada gives a common purport for all three. Yatayamam gata rasam puti paryushitam chayat uchishtam api cha medhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Okay, read the purport.
The purpose of food is to increase the duration of life, purify the mind, and aid bodily strength. This is its only purpose. In the past, great authorities selected those foods that best aid health and increase life's duration, such as milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk or other foods. They are then in the mode of goodness. All these foods are pure by nature. They are quite distinct from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Fatty foods, as mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for killing of innocent creatures. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Protein is amply available through split peas, dal, whole wheat, etc. Foods in the mode of passion, which are bitter, too salty, or overly mixed with red pepper, cause misery by reducing the mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. Foods in the mode of ignorance or darkness are essentially those that are not fresh. Any food cooked more than 3 hours before it is eaten, except prasadam, food offered to Lord, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Because they are decomposing, such foods give a bad odor, which often attracts people in this mode but repulses those in the mode of goodness. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are a part of meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness and they increase infection or disease. Such foodstuffs, although very palatable to persons in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord says that he accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk and offered with devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. But it is also mentioned that the prasadam should be prepared in a particular way. Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scripture and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long, long ago because such food is transcendental. Therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada has given a purport covering all the points. So you can see that, yes, foods, although very palatable to the persons in the mode of goodness, in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. So that's how, when one is influenced by a certain mode, then he likes a certain type of food. Two examples come to mind. One is Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur going to Rangoon, Burma. And there he was cooking puris in pure Shuddha ghee, which the neighbors found to be disgusting. And what they were having? Nafi. Liquid coming out of decomposed, dead animals. That they found nectar drink. So what makes the difference? Modes. So because Tamogun is influencing them, they find that disgusting thing to be like nectar. And pure ghee, disgusting. So this difference is due to influence of the modes. And another example Prabhupada gives is on the airplane, there was a person sitting beside him who was relishing hog's intestines. He was eating with great relish, swadisht. So, for some other person, how can he eat? वो समझ में नहीं आता है. How can he eat like that? But that is the influence of the modes. Devesha gunamayi mammaya durat. That is how strong the influence of the modes are. That at that point of time, they cover the person so much, he just cannot understand. He cannot understand. That is how the covering is so thick. So after becoming a devotee, if we have been doing any such abominable activities, now we may think how I was doing those things that time. Correct? But then that is how the covering is so strong. The person cannot understand. So just like the hog is eating stool, but what is he thinking? As Prabhupada says, he won't eat halwa cooked in ghee. Why? Modes. That is how the modes affect. So therefore, if we go according to our likes and dislikes, then it's all according to the influence of the modes. And therefore you see, Srila Prabhupada, what is writing here? See, he says, after quoting Patram Pushpam Phalam, then what he says? Of course, devotion and love are the chief things. Because someone in Sattvagun also may like Patram Pushpam Phalam. Correct? Someone in Sattvagun, he may also naturally like. But that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is what? Yes, the bhakti element. How one is offering to the Lord with devotion. And therefore, when we talk of devotion, therefore another important point Prabhupada writes is, but it is also mentioned that prasadam should be prepared in a particular way. And how should it be prepared? Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scripture and offered to the Supreme Personality of God. So therefore, our love and devotion to the Supreme Lord is what? I may not have so much of love, but how do I exhibit my love? Yes, by following the scriptures. That is how I exhibit my love. Therefore, I cannot say that I will cook prasadam in this way that I like to prepare. No. Then when it comes to love and devotion to the Supreme Lord, then my personal likes and dislikes have to be kept aside. Then one has to see what is pleasing to the Lord. I think so. This past time you have heard, right? Of that head pujari in Los Angeles. She saw Shruti Giti Prabhu offering hot chapatis. Everyone knows that pastime, right? So Srila Prabhupada said, no, you can't do that to the deities. Offering one hot chapati at a time. No, you keep the plate and then you walk out. So see, intention is good. Intention is good and it may appear logically also good. Oh, you're serving Guru like this, serve Lord also in the same way. But still, no, it is not according to Shastra. So it's not allowed. So one cannot imagine. One cannot say, oh, I have so much bhakti, so let me offer in this way. No, your bhakti cannot be sentimental. Therefore, anushilanam can't be sentimental. So therefore, Prabhupada is writing, even the preparation has to be according to the injunction of the scripture. And also in that same temple, Srila Prabhupada once asked for the morning sweets, and they had offered some laddus made of mudi, puffed rice. So they were thinking, oh, very nice offerings to the deities. Prabhupada said, who taught you this? No, I taught you. What I taught you? I taught you Rasgulla Sandesh. What are you offering? So therefore, one cannot concoct these things. What I like, what I don't like, one cannot concoct. Our love and devotion is following Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And that is what is most important. So one cannot say, oh, I like this, so I'll offer. No, all those things don't work. As long as it's authorized by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, it's fine. Like Italian, Chinese, all that. Now that is, you can read the purport to Dhruv Maharaj section. So there, we know Narad Muni, he gave that process to Dhruv Maharaj, and there it's meant Desha Kala Vibhagavit. According to time, place, circumstances, one can offer there. Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport that according to whatever is available in the local area, then one can offer those things. So Srila Prabhupada is writing over there. So therefore, if in that local area they're offering a certain type of foodstuffs, so then that can be offered to the Supreme Lord. There is nothing wrong in that, as long as, of course, it falls within certain parameters. There is this pastime which Harisharu Prabhu writes in Transcendental Diary, that so devotees, when Srila Prabhupada went to Germany, so devotees asked Srila Prabhupada that can we offer bread to the deities? So then Srila Prabhupada asked, what do they add in that? So then out of the many things, one of the ingredients is yeast. So then when Srila Prabhupada heard about yeast, Prabhupada said, no, it cannot be offered to the deities. So then, of course, you can't offer to the deities, then how can you accept something which is not offered to the deities? Because our principle is what? We accept prasadam. What is offered to the deities, that's what we can have. So if something is not offerable to the deities, then how can we have? So then those devotees said, these devotees, whoever was the leader over there, he said, these devotees cannot live without bread. Baked bread. Actually, even our chapatis are also called bread only. But that is baked bread. So anyway, so when Prabhupada heard that, this is what these devotees are used to, literally from their childhood, that is what they have been eating and that is what they're used to. Then Srila Prabhupada said, okay, that's all right. So he sort of gave that concession because, they can't survive without that. Something else. So that's how, so if in a particular locality, people are very much accustomed to eating a certain type of food stuff, then yes, then that's offerable and that's fine. And now, of course, within ISKCON, everything international, so everyone is eating everything. But of course, even from an Ayurvedic perspective, it is said that foods are best for digestion, which are locally grown. So it's well known that these baked breads, baked items, and all these pasta, pizza, all that. So all these foods are okay in the Western countries because there it is cold. And for that type of weather, they are able to digest these things. But we can't just imitate those things in India. Right. So then there will be serious problems for digestion and all. So of course, once in a while, little bit, that's fine. But one has to take into consideration. Okay. Okay, fine. So we will just read these commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti on these verses and then we'll conclude for today. Okay, read.
It is well known that sattvic foods increase the lifespan. Ayu. They also increase strength of will, sattva, as well as physical strength, freedom from disease, happiness, and
Delightfulness
in eating them.
Okay, so these are foods in sattva. They increase lifespan because why they increase lifespan? Okay, nutritious, less disease. So therefore they increase lifespan, physical strength. Okay.
The food should be tasty or juicy.
Yeah. So sattvic foods are little juicy, not too sukha.
Jaggery has taste, but it is coarse or dry. Sattvic food should thus be mild with oil, snigdha.
Snigdha. That
The-
means basically not too dry. Of course, even from an Ayurvedic perspective, too dry foods, they cause problems. They increase vata if foods are too dry. Okay.
The form of milk, though tasty and mild, is
Substantial.
Sattvic food should be substantial
Substantial मतलब पेट भरना चाहिए.
with long taste,
Long lasting effect.
lasting effect in the body.
Jackfruit and other items.
Jackfruit and other items are sweet, mild, and substantial, but are not beneficial to the stomach and other organs. Sattvic food should thus also be beneficial to the heart, stomach, and other organs, Hridya as
Okay.
well.
What? And other items are sweet, mild. So of course, all these things, little bit is okay. Anything in excess is a problem.
Thus, it is understood that foods such as rice, wheat, other grains, milk, and sugar are dear to the sattvic people because they have all four of the above mentioned qualities. As those foods are dear to them, the foods are understood to be sattvic.
So you see this? As those foods are dear to them, the foods are understood to be sattvic. So that is how it is. So main thing is sattvic people like those foods. Therefore, those foods are sattvic. So both go hand in hand that way.
However, even if food has those four qualities, if it is impure, the sattvic people do not like it. Thus, purity should be added as a quality of sattvic food. One should compare the description of tamasic food mentioned later. The adjective used to describe tamasic food is amedhya, ritually impure, not to be offered in sacrifice.
Now this is 9th verse.
In this list, the adjective extremely
ati
should be added to each quality. Very bitter food, katu, means such food as neem.
Neem.
Very
Neem ke
sour,
patte.
very salty, and very hot foods are well known.
Sour matlab खट्टा, बहुत खट्टा, जैसे इमली. So too much, ati, little bit here and there, fine, but ati is always a problem.
Very sharp foods, tikshna, are turmeric root, and other items are pepper. Very
Pepper, chili, these are tikshna.
Very drying foods, ruksha, are hing and podra. Burning foods, vidahina, are those that cause internal heat, such as burnt chickpeas. These cause suffering, dukha, lamentation, shok, and disease, amayam. The word suffering here refers to suffering when eating, causing pain to the tongue, throat, or other organ. Lamentation means afterward, in the future, those foods cause despair. Amaya means disease.
Now the 10th verse.
Yatayama means food which has remained 3 hours after cooking, or in other words, that which has become cold after cooking. Gatarasham means food from which the natural taste is missing or has been extracted, or such items as the skin and seed of the ripe mango. Puti means bad smelling. Paryushitam means overripe. Uchishtam refers to the leftovers other than that from the guru or the similar person. Amediyam means inedible items such as kalanja. From reviewing the list of food, one should conclude that those interested in their own welfare should partake of sattvic foods. The Vaishnavas, however, reject any food not offered to the Lord, even if it is a sattvic food. Food offered to the Lord is dear to the devotee who are beyond the gunas. This is understood from the Bhagavatam.
Okay, so Vaishnava means only offered food, prasadam. So not only sattvic foods. So not that one simply buys something and eats some potato chips or something. No offering, nothing. We have seen sometimes devotees doing these things. So yes, so Vaishnava means only prasadam. Yes. Okay. Okay, fine. We'll stop for today. Continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samit Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.